Alright, hey everybody, welcome to the Sim channel. This will be the release stream for Sveg Raceway 1.2, so any questions that you may have, just direct them my way as I turn down my laptop microphone or speakers. Alright. Right, so right now we don't have a lot of viewers, which means I'll just go into the game, drive a couple laps until I see any questions pop up in the chat. Where is it? You gotta look past the wheelbase here to see all the buttons on the bottom of the screen. Okay. So I was looking at cars for Beat the Death, and I already did the 911 GT3R. I want to do the Yellowbird, and now I'm looking into this Maserati MC12, I think it's called. Gonna test drive it now. I just drove one lap with it prior to the stream just to see if I like it in general, and now I'm gonna look and see if I can do some hot laps with it, and maybe some setup work. Now I have no way of knowing if the audio levels are fine, but with so few viewers, if any at all, there's nobody to report back to me if the audio levels are fine, so I'm just gonna keep an eye on the chat. So this car has no ABS, and the traction control, even set to 1, is very restrictive, so I turned it off entirely. I don't think it's much of an issue with this car. Audio is good. That's good to know. Thank you very much. In previous streams I had quite a bit of latency, and I found a setting in the YouTube menu where it let me set the latency to low. So I'm hoping that there's not like a 30-second delay anymore between the stream and what's actually happening here. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'd say in terms of general speed, this car feels kind of similar to the 911 GT3R. Let's see what the lap times will be like in a bit. So the 911 had I did it to 35.5 with that, and I don't expect to get a good lap in maybe during the stream with this one, because it usually takes me a little time to set up the car and then manage to bring it together in one good lap. But maybe do some setup work or whatever you guys want me to do. Gotta be a little more careful on the brakes than with the 911, because this one doesn't have ABS, so it's easy to lock up the inside tires. we should turn on some sort of lap time indication here. That one could work. Let's leave it on for now. So, right, I have no idea how many viewers there are right now, but if you guys have any questions about the track, about track modding in general, whatever, just ask, and I will do my best to answer. We gotta be delicate with the brakes here. Actually, I think I didn't set up the tires correctly. Let's see. So far it was somewhere in the 238s. So yeah, it felt similar to the 911, and being 3 seconds off its pace right now without a real setup, I think my feeling didn't deceive me. Alright, let's go with the soft slicks. If there are no questions, I'll just make this a live episode of Beat the Death. That's an option as well. I'm getting a little bit too much stuttering here for comfort, so I'm gonna pause the game now and check if my PC temperatures are fine. No, they're not, because my software isn't working properly. That is supposed to take care of the fan speeds. Thank you, AS Rock, for that. Pretty annoying, but what can you do? Okay, temperature should be going down. My CPU was at 94 degrees just now. It's now going down slightly. GPU is still at 71. CPU is now 85, 83. And yeah. All right, let's hope that does it. Well, the gear ratio is pretty spot on for the long straight here. That's good. I like how this new sol. I don't know how new this is, but I feel like the sun is sometimes being covered by clouds. Like right now, it seems like the sun is behind some clouds. It's got a little darker, and now it's coming out from the clouds again. So now it gets brighter and sunnier in the color temperature. So that's cool. Even though in this setting there aren't actually any clouds visible in the sky. There were in another setting. Yeah, that curve just killed me. Maybe I shouldn't focus too much on tire temperatures while I'm cornering. But in general, the tire temperatures seem very, very fine actually. Don't have a lot of complaints. It's all in the greens, so not really any need to change tire pressures or anything. By the way, here on the right, we're seeing something that came new for this version. It's the tire walls, because everybody was just flying off in that corner all the time. So the track makers decided to spare some damage and just put in some tire walls. Also some pavement stones, whatever, in the grass for people who run off slightly to still stay on the track. Aid them a little in not losing the car. Okay, now how about a lap without a crash for once? Even though the tires are a little old now. Well, they still look good actually in the Assetto Corsa app, but in the other app I'm seeing only 80% left on the rear tires. But it's still getting to know the car, so it's fine. Bit of a moment there. Using the new extended curbs here on the left. Also extended them in the next corner that's coming up the hill, turn 7. That was a little too late. Okay, to 36.7 with sort of a big mistake in the lap already and weak tires. I think this car might actually, it will probably outpace the 911 by some margin in the end, like a second or two. It's a very nice car actually. I have no idea why I've never tried it before. Everything feels very intuitive. It's a bit more challenging than some of the others due to the lack of ABS. That's nice for a change. Yeah. I shouldn't say that. Why do I say that? Okay, I guess it's time for a little bit of new tires. And let's see if there's anything in the setup. Okay. Thanks, Talia. Your name sounds Scandinavian to some degree. Are you Scandinavian? Swedish? Guess you could always reduce the rear wing and see what it does for you. I don't have many complaints. The car feels a little... It reacts a little slow to steering input and feels a bit stiff and wooden to me. So I'd like it maybe to be a little more dynamic. This has nothing to do with the diff per se, but generally I like higher diff settings in AC, so I'm going with that. Norway, yeah. Hi to Norway then. I did my semester abroad in Norway. I lived in Bergen for 4 months. So, good country, I like it. Alright. Yeah, what the hell, let's just... No, actually, one change at a time. Maybe better. Yeah, Baker, thanks. If you have any follow-up questions, just feel free to ask. I'm happy to answer anything you might want to know about track modding or this track in particular. Yay! Bergen is a great town to have as a hometown. Actually, I'm feeling pretty much at home whenever I visit. I did visit Bergen actually, I think, on the same trip right before I went to Sveg for the first time. So I did. I took the train from Bergen up to, I don't know, something on the Norwegian side that's close to Sveg, and my couch surfing host picked me up from there, and we drove a little bit through the landscape until we arrived at Sveg. Was that too late? Nah, just fine. Always the tires locking up here. I think I can manage it all right with the Heusinkveld brakes that I'm using, but I still gotta get accustomed to how hard I can step on the brakes actually. Good question. Most difficult part of making the track. It's always hard to answer what's difficult in making something, because in the end, if you succeed, it doesn't feel difficult anymore. There are things that take long, and there are things that come more easily and that you're done with quicker. But so I'd say it took me a long time to just figure out the layout itself, and I went through different iterations of just having a band of road without any landscape around it really for months, trying to figure out what I like, because I mean, I had some preconceived ideas on what kind of elements I want in the track, and I have my own philosophy of what makes a good racetrack in terms of the layout, but it's just translating that knowledge or those ideas into something that actually feels good and feels right. It's tricky and takes some time if you're doing it for the first time at least. And then there are some parts that, in terms of difficulty, the trees, it's very hard to find trees of this kind online anywhere on any of the texture sites and so on. So in the end, what I did was I drove up there again to take pictures of trees. So all the trees that you see on this track are actually trees, photos of trees in the area. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I combined it with a summer holiday with my ex at the time, and I like the area as it is. Even I didn't just go up there to take pictures, but I like the northern Swedish parts, the northern parts of the country. It's a good place to relax and maybe take some pictures. Yeah. Fuck. The turn one curve can really bite you in the ass, as it did me right now. It's one that I try to avoid, and sometimes you just get on it a little too hard, and then this kind of thing happens. Okay, up. So we were at a 236.3 or something, I guess. So that's fine. Okay, I'm just gonna try and reduce the rear wing a little, and see if that causes me too much trouble in the corners, or see if it actually, if I do that, I'm gonna need a longer 6th gear. Let's just leave all the other gears as they are, just make that one a little longer. Do I have any aspirations to build tracks or sims professionally? I don't. I'm trying to get a job in machine learning, AI, that kind of stuff. Ideally in the automobile industry. So those are my plans on the professional side for now. I'm happy if maybe I can bring in to my new job some, knowledge that I've acquired with respect to 3D modeling. But I doubt that there's going to be much that I can transfer to that. So, unless I got a really nice offer from some of the sim racing studios, which I don't think is going to happen. No, I don't really consider a professional career in this. I think I was just too focused on answering questions this lap that I didn't really pay much attention to. What the reduced rear wing does to my lap time. It wasn't a perfect lap, so the current half a second off of best time isn't much of an indication or anything, so. Yeah, don't worry. That's what the stream is for. I mean, I didn't intend to just show you guys how I work on a setup for hours. So I actually prefer answering questions because that's what this is about. So I got through the first two corners without much of a loss in time, and now on the straight I should be faster. But it doesn't. I'm not gaining all that much on this straight. Actually, it's interesting. So it's. Looks to me like it's more of a thing, like the aero setup doesn't seem to affect the straight line speed too much, so it's just about how the car feels, I suppose, how much, just the aero balance, how much over and understeer you want. And if you guys ever get bored of this car, or, well, I guess not of the track, because I want to keep it on this track, at least for a little longer in the stream, because it's about the track. But just let me know if you want to see a different car, or a different time of day, different weather, whatever. Am I a programmer? Kinda, sorta. Not a trained programmer, but it was part of much of my work in my PhD, which I'm about to finish within the next few months. So I do speak Python and some C#, some Java maybe left from when I learned it a couple of years ago. So there's another go. I'm gonna check for the straight line speed again now with this the reduced wing setting. Just make sure I wasn't mistaken the first time. Can we see the track in the dark? Yeah, in a bit. Have I raced anything in real life? Unfortunately, outside of go-karts, not really. I drifted an old 3 Series BMW a couple of times. There's videos of that on my channel as well, if you just look for it. It's a drift car on some small motor park in the area here. And I have to say I was quite successful in getting it to drift nicely. The people were impressed with a beginner because it was my first time drifting a real car outside of a sim. And I didn't struggle too much. It all felt very intuitive right off the bat. So, yay, sim racing does teach you useful things for the real world. But that's about my only real world experience of a car, driving a car outside of normal passenger transportation, I guess. Okay, so I checked the time delta, and no, the reduced rear wing is not giving me anything on this straight. It's a little weird, so in that case I might just increase the front splitter a little to get more, a little bit more bite and turn in the high-speed corners. While I'm at it, why not go to the extreme? I find that sometimes the Assetto Corsa settings work best at the extreme ends of the sliders, which may not be the most realistic thing, but I guess that's just how it is. Let's see if maybe a rear wing of 10 degrees will result in reduced straight line speed. And if it doesn't, I'm just gonna put as much wing on as I can. When did I start sim racing? Gran Turismo, no, not Gran Turismo 2. GP2 actually was my first sim racing sim back on the PC, driving it with a keyboard. When I was, I don't know, how old was I, like 11? 10? No, and then I went on to Gran Turismo 2, Gran Turismo 3. GT4 I think a little bit, but then I stopped the whole thing basically. I sold all my sim racing gear back then, and I got back into it when I learned about Assetto Corsa being like something, a new prodigy in the sim racing world, very accurate physics and all that, and was just interested, like after I don't know, 8-year break or something like that, how things had evolved. And then so I got back into it, and so far stayed into it. Gotta say I like it. Quickly, PhD. So I'm a cognitive scientist. So I studied cognitive science, and I'm now doing a PhD in the neuroinformatics lab at my uni here. And my topic would be a mixture of some machine learning and AI stuff, as well as, and that's the larger part of the thesis in the end, would be ethics for self-driving cars, from a psychological perspective and, well, algorithmic perspective. How can you have a car decide what to do in a critical situation? So that's the kind of thing that I'm working with when I'm not doing sim racing, basically. But I don't want to go into too much detail about those things because this is supposed to be sim racing and not discussing whether or not we want to kill the grandma or the baby. So, yeah, Steve, I take it as a compliment, and I mean that's what I was going for, right? I was every part of the way in making this track. I was always aiming to make things as realistic as possible, and I was I actually, unfortunately, so far didn't really get around to looking into the official FIA rulebook for track design. So there are some things on how much of a how much runoff areas you need in different places and so on. And I guess they probably also have some regulations for how far apart can marshal outposts be. Now with a rear wing at 10, I'm losing quite a bit on the straights though. So I don't know what's going on here. So I think I'm probably putting it back to 8 in a bit, because also it's I feel like it's more downforce than I need really. It's holding me back that much on the straights. Yeah. Anyway, so I do have this PDF document for track regulations, safety regulations for tracks and so on. Most of the stuff, how it's done, is just, yeah, copying from other tracks and just see what they do the same. I got the document too late in the process, so I didn't dare to take a closer look and see what is wrong with Sveg and what parts of it are essentially unrealistic, and what would I need to fix, because I can just imagine it would be a huge amount of work to go through actual regulations. But you know, if it fools the sim racers into thinking it's real, then I consider it a job well done. Baker, is that about the rear wing a general thing, or is it with this car? Because that's interesting to know if there's some sort of a sweet spot for this. But I agree. So I didn't feel much of a difference in terms of straight line speed between 6 and 8 degrees, and I'm feeling 10 degrees to be really a lot, and dragging me down on the straights. Okay, so you're familiar with the car. I am not at all. This is the first time I'm driving it actually. So 7 degrees here. Let's go with the front splitter at 4. Save the setting. All right. Have a good evening, tell you. Baker, do you have any other setup tips for this car, if you know it really well? I'm happy to learn and be taught and what to do and what not to do in setting up this car. Yeah. Too much of a whiz that corner. Still not exactly sure whether or not I should, or whether I should use third or second gear in these tighter turns. Usually the higher gear will be better if the car still turns enough. This feels like right on the edge between the two gears. Personal best. Already basically the same time that I did with the 911, so as expected this car is definitely faster. This wasn't a perfect lap, and now I'm screwing up the next one. Also still lots of setting work to be done, I guess. Let's actually go back to do that. Or rather, whoa. This is one thing that I don't really like about Assetto Corsa. When you have a direct drive wheel and you're pausing the game, you're pressing exit or go back to pits or whatever, it'll run the simulation a little bit more after you press that, and if you're not holding the wheel straight, it'll just go haywire, and I actually hurt my fingers quite a few times by now, just because this is a strong wheel and it's just bumping into my hand. Then it's not very nice of Assetto Corsa to do. Let's save the setting as it is. Is the front splitter adding drag that much? Usually I'll just go with, okay, the rear wing will add drag, but the front splitter is usually I think so. Well, let's go down one click on each of them, then you should feel fine. I'm going to continue this in just a bit. I just want to go, and you're going to get a black screen now, I guess, but I just want to go change the time a little to something a little later, and maybe go for a different weather. I'm going few clouds now and getting back into it. So Baker, tell me, how are you experienced with this car? Have you driven it in any leagues, or how do you know it so well? Now this looks immediately beautiful. I really dig the new Soul 123 version. I don't know what I had before, I think like 1.1 or something. And even though the sun is kind of in my face, I'm not sure if I'm gonna like it for a long time. But we'll see. So I had a different version, I think 1.1 of Soul before. And I was driving the 911, and in the middle of driving I updated to Soul because Chris Hay actually reported that he was having issues getting the lights to run. We figured it out eventually. It wasn't any issue with the track, but in trying to figure out what the problem was, I installed the newest Soul and then went back into the game with the same settings, and I was just amazed by how much better it looked right off the bat. So yeah, I really like the new Soul. Ah. Peeking at data files, that's interesting. Actually, I have no idea how all of that works for cars. Coming back to this version of Sol, I like how this track completely transforms into something that looks so differently. If you look back at the original Assetto Corsa and how the evening light would always feel a little off, like colors were off and it didn't really feel all that great, in my opinion. This now just transforms the entire atmosphere of this racetrack, and it's just amazing. Maybe I should focus on the driving a little bit next lap, because I feel like I'm completely unfocused and driving like shit. Because the car should... Come on. Yeah. Let me just restart that. Not good starting a lap like that. So, I'm gonna try and not look at the chat for one lap. Let's see what I can do. Nah, being a wuss. Ah! Damn it. Be less of a wuss in turn 1, be more of a wuss in turn 2. Gotta remember that for next lap. So it's 0.6 behind after turn 2. I was gonna say I'm gonna check out if I can reduce that significantly over the course of the lap, but I screwed up the next corner where I also didn't brake enough. I just like how this looks. Basically, if I turn around now, probably would look something like it looked in reality when I took that one picture that started this whole project. Basically, if you've seen Chris Hayes' review of this track, then you know which picture I mean. Thank you, person whose name I can't really read. Racing? Probably mispronounced that, but thanks a lot. Okay, let's try and go for a better lap this time. Was in turn 1. More brakes in turn 2. Much better. lock up in turn 3, but that's didn't cost too much, I hope. Much better turn 5 now here. And that was okay too. So far we're 3/10 ahead. Yeah, I took second gear this time around. It was fine too. No difference in the time. Still 3/10 ahead. Too late. Still gonna be best time, but I lost about 3/10 and turn 12. Whoop. Nope, 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 nope. Ouch. Anyway, I feel like I still want to try with a little more rear wing though, to be honest. Sweet spot or not, I feel like a little bit more downforce on the rear would be nice. By the way, if there's anything that you want to know that is not directly relating to Sveg, that is fine as well. So since my channel is mostly focused on sim racing gear, I guess, more than the software side of things so far, I can give you a quick run through of my rig here. So I have a GT Omega Pro that is modded, has anything on it that goes on basically, plus some additional mods that I did myself. Then there's a DD1 Fanatic wheelbase on top of it with a Porsche 911.2 cup steering wheel in my hands right now. And that's the genuine Porsche wheel that I also made a video about. And I ditched the GT Omega seat for a Mirko seat from Poland, which is FIA approved. Also got a video on that on the channel. And my feet are resting on a Heusinkveld footplate with the pedals that go along with it, which would be the Pro pedals, which are the reason that you're seeing all those Heusinkveld logos on the track, because that was sort of a sponsoring deal. So I got those pedals for this track, which is the only way that the huge amount of work that I put into this has materialized in any way so far. Donations, unfortunately, for these kinds of tracks are not what some people might expect them to be. So over the years, I think I got less than 30 euros in donations. I'm not trying to beg, I'm just trying to qualify my statement about the hoisting pedals being the only payoff. And I'm gonna go and try and focus for another lap. I'm driving more than I'm talking. Tires are in good condition. Track looks beautiful. Sticks, good. A bit too careful in turn 2 there. That was good. Too fast into turn 4. Lost a bit of time there. Since this is not gonna be a particularly fast lap anyway, I want to try one thing. And I remember a set of course I once had, for some weird reason, the lowest traction control setting being 8 out of 8. So, oh yeah, that's the case here as well. That's why 1 of 8 was so extremely restrictive when I tried it. So let's go 7 out of 8 maybe? Because a little more confidence in applying the throttle could probably get me some lap time here. If I'm beginning to look sweaty, it's because it's really warm here right now. We had over 30 degrees today, I think, and it's really humid. And I don't have a fan on, so you guys can hear me talking. I just hear the fan noise. So this is my sacrifice to you. Stick. Good. Okay, time for fresh tires. But I think with the traction control back on, I can probably go with a lower rear wing setting again. I feel like this should get me into the 34s maybe. Well, brother, the amount of time that this track took me to do is probably, I mean, I don't know, but I would be surprised actually if any other set of Corsa track, Kunos or Mod, got that much time put into it. Because I've been on this for 5 years now, on and off, with months of not working on it at all in between, of course, every now and then, but I've just put so much time into it. Just making another track, I mean, second track would go a lot quicker because now I know what I'm doing, and I would no longer have to learn everything from scratch, and that would probably reduce my time that I need to create such a thing into, I don't know, it would be a quarter of what I took for this now, I think, but still, even a quarter of that would be an absurd amount of time. And with a payoff like that, it's not at all worth it. Thanks, Alpha. I appreciate it. So, brother, the problem is, I think, I mean, this track, in my opinion, of course, I'm biased here, but in my opinion, it doesn't quite get the attention that it might deserve, simply because it's a fantasy track. And, I mean, the vast majority of people, I guess, don't really like fantasy tracks, and admittedly for good reason. There's so many fantasy tracks out there, like the vast majority of them I personally don't like at all. So I get why people are immediately thrown off when it says fantasy track. That's probably also part of the reason why it has relatively few downloads on Race Department. And also why the donations haven't really been what I once hoped they would be once I release it. But I mean, I'm not in it for the money. Otherwise this track wouldn't look like this. This is just a passion project, so I don't really care if I'm not getting a lot of donations. But yeah, I would like for the track to be more well known in the sim racing world. I feel like it deserves it. So I'm trying to do as much promotion for it as I can. I was nagging Chris Hay, for quite a while until he did the review of it. Never got James of Gamer Muscle around to do it. By the way, that's why in this place you no longer see Gamer Muscle at boards. He once agreed to feature it in some piece, but I never saw any of it. So yeah, he had his chance. Now Chris Hay stepped in and did a great job in promoting this track as well as my channel here. So very nice guy. If any of you are not subscribed to Chris Hay's channel, do it now. He's good. Great videos. Great guy. I'm gonna try and read the chat on the next straight. Yeah, I mean, the sponsor's on track. are the only, well, there are two paying ones, basically. So there's Hoisingfeld, who gave me a set of pedals, which, I mean, it's a pretty amazing deal for me, and I was so glad I reached out to them and got this deal, because, I mean, it's 800 euros worth of pedals, so that's pretty amazing. And if I had a chance to get more deals in of that kind, then I would happily take it. But so far, nobody that I've reached out to was really interested, other than Hoisingfeld. We have the race department and SRP banners here, but that's just that was just paid by promotion, if you will. So I actually have to talk to William of SRP again to maybe now for 1.2 make a feature video about this track or something. Chris Hay here, this turn 9 sponsor, of course, has done a lot. He's well deserved his place on the ad boards here. And then there's more sim racing paddock and Raceland. Raceland was actually like a 10 euro donation, I think. I think it's some Brazilian sim racing website. They do host some league races, I think, something like that. Okay, tires are cooked. I feel like just lapping this track on my own is getting a little stale. So I'm gonna make sure I save the setup, and I'm gonna set up a race against the AI. Yeah, why not at the same time? Time was great. Race, let's go. What should we do? 10 laps? Pace? 96%, aggressiveness 30. Let's go. I don't want to go too many opponents because I don't want to crash my or ask too much of my CPU. Oh, with a fan on, by the way. I reported my temperatures earlier, right? It was in the 80s and 70s because my fan control that should be always on when the tool is running, according to the mainboard manufacturer ASRock, wasn't running because bugs, and I don't know, maybe ASRock is a shitty company, I have no idea. Now that it's on, I'm below 60 degrees even while playing, so that's pretty good. Don't have a general temperature problem. Anyway, 17 opponents starting 9th in the grid. Opponent strength 96% plus minus 3.3, so it goes up all the way to 100. Basically, let's make that 96.5 and 3.5, so it goes up to 100. And going into the race. Yeah, so classic F1 tracks, of course, I don't care about classic F1 tracks though. There are a few that I would be interested in, but like most of the classic ones, so the really old ones like 50s and 60s are just long and without curbs and no tight turns and everything is wide, and I'm not a big fan of those kinds of racetracks. So like there's the old Silverstone in the stock AC. I guess it came with some expansion pack to it, but I never really drove that much. That's not my kind of track. And then like there are some interesting like 80s racetracks, like Adelaide, for example, is quite interesting. It would be nice to have that in the game, but I'm not much of a. I don't want to just recreate stuff usually. I want to get creative and do my own thing and just put my own planning and architecture and whatnot in it. So just recreating a track from scratch is not really appealing to me. Just like it's just the way that I am. It's not why I do this. It's not what brings all the fun to me to just recreate. So yeah. Yeah. Sveg quality Monaco. Well, but there's so many Monacos made by professional studios out in the wild, like all the F1 games and lots of other games and some mods and so on. I mean, they may not all be in the same quality, but I don't have much of a desire to recreate Monaco. That would be something that maybe a company like Kunas should do with a laser scan, and if they were going at it, then they have the resources to do a much better job at recreating a real place than I have, even with a GoFundMe campaign or anything. So empty, what do you mean by stock settings on the Hoisingvelds? So you can set all three of the pedals up in a certain way, and I have them set up to I don't know what exactly. I think you can see my settings in the Hoisingveld review video. I put in softer dampers that I still had lying around into the brake, because I like a little softer brake than it is possible with the stock bushings that they provide. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so that's about the bushings. Yeah, I have 2 orange soft bushings. Go watch my pedal review of the Hoisingveld Pros, because I'm talking about that in that video, and there you see what I'm using, and I haven't changed that at all. I see it's getting dark in the stream, so let me just get up, turn the lights on in this room. It's getting dark outside, and there's some lightning going on, some thunderstorm. Okay. Let's see if this is better. Yeah, you see more now of my room and myself in a bit. I'm gonna open the window and hope for some cool air, because I'm getting really sweaty. If there's too much noise coming in from the outside, just tell me. I can't close the window again, but I think as my microphone is fairly close to my mouth, it should be fine. Okay. Let me see, there was another comment about the DD1. So Broder, you have a DD1 as well? That's a good choice, I guess. I'm actually, I started preparing my review of the DD1 today, and trying to do some research before I start spreading misinformation online, but yeah, so I'm hoping to have a review of the DD1 up in the next maybe 2 weeks or so. Roll, move. Pretty wide here. Using a bit of the turf there on the outside, but it sticks. Okay, so what position am I in? Is it still 9, or is that thing just not updating? Oh, I just realized I'm on soft tires, so that might not be the best choice. While I'm doing this, let me just restart this and go with the medium tires. I think it'll be a good choice in the long run. Roll, move. Ooh, do you hear that thunder in the background? So that's happening. And I feel a cool breeze coming in through the window. It's very nice. Should we go 3 wide here? I think we shouldn't. I already made contact with the guy on the left. So where do we brake? Contact. Nothing happened though. This car has... Oh yeah. Yeah, that wasn't me. I didn't do that. I was distracted because I was looking for the light switch in this car. I found it. But I wrecked another car in the process. Empty road ahead of me though, so... Let's try and get some smooth racing in here. More thunder. Oh, thanks for the donation. Scarves something. Sorry, I couldn't read it in time for the turn. Now it's raining and I'm getting a little wet here. Not on track, in the real world. Hope my keyboard is safe because that's to the left of me. I haven't tried any magnetic shifter so far. I would love to get some, but right now I basically ran out of money for gear for the next couple of months probably. So yeah, I would really like to upgrade these shifters as well as those on my Formula rim, Formula V2. Speaking of magnetic shifters, do you know where I can, who offers the cheapest solution from Europe? Because I know that there is the OSR guys, and I have one of them, I think it's OSR, Open Sim Race, I don't know what OSR stands for, but I have one of the guys on Facebook, but with shipping they're like $150 or so, and for that kind of money I can also get the Fanatic Podium, and I don't really necessarily want the Fanatic Podium shifters. I don't need a clutch on the wheel, at least not for for this Porsche room. And I don't need 3 pedals per side. It seems a bit excessive to me. So I'd go with something cheaper that is just shifters. I'm gonna try that to read that message in a second. Okay, yeah, I can check out eBay Kleinanzeigen, yeah. Blacklists, I don't know what they're called in English, but to see if, what I can find. I mean, it's not that, shouldn't be that expensive to make, because all you would have to do is to add some magnets to some little piece that can be of any material. So yeah, it shouldn't have to cost like 150 euros. But then again, at least half of that was shipping, I guess, from OSR. So yeah, if I find something in like the 50 to 70 euro range, I'm gonna be very tempted. So I'm like 5 and something seconds behind the guys that are in front of me, and then I have 2 seconds room to anything behind me. Which, turn this mirror on. I'm a little alone again here, even though I'm driving a race. Oh, maybe I can catch them towards the end of the race if I don't screw up too badly. I feel like I'm noticing that my rear tires are already starting to leave me a little. They're at 85% here after 3 laps only. Hope I don't need hard tires for a 10-lap race here. But 10 laps hard tires seems a bit excessive, doesn't it? Okay, 40 euros sounds like a good price. I would have to look into it though. I don't want to get anything too cheap looking. I'll check it out. Okay. Yeah, actually I talked to someone on Facebook the other day who's actually living just 2 kilometers from me, or 3 maybe, who does some 3D printing for sim racing gear. So I could maybe ask him as well. But, I mean, the shifters aren't ideal, the stock Fanatic shifters, but they could be worse. I'm not having a lot of misshifts or anything. It's just a thing of immersion. It would be nice to have a more responsive, more positive click, because actually you don't feel any of the click on the standard Fanatic shifters. You hear a little bit of a click, but that's just acoustically, and as soon as you're wearing headphones, that goes out of the window. So it's just pulling on a lever that is pushed back by a spring. Is what it feels like. It works, it does the job. Doesn't feel particularly immersive though. Then again, when I bought this wheel rim at the local Porsche dealership here in town, I actually got to sit in a couple of 911s, most of which had pedal shifts on the wheel. And I have to say, I wasn't all that impressed with the real thing on those cars. I felt they were like, one was weird. I think there was a 991.1 that I sat in that had a weird shifter construction where you could up and down shift with one hand, and I think so the pedal wasn't really a pedal, but it was something that would go through the steering wheel, and you would push on it with your thumb to I guess get a gear up, and to get a gear down you would use your pointer finger and push it into your direction. So, and it was the same on both sides. So you had those, you basically had a redundant button because you had the same options on both sides, pushing in to go gear up, pushing it in your direction from behind the wheel to go gear down. So that was weird, but I also didn't like the weird click feely thing on the 991.2 that I sat in, or the Cayman. I think they were all a little, maybe I just liked things to be more race car like, and not so much the street car kind of shifters on those regular Porsches. Yeah, it was a bit strange. You can probably look it up online. The 991.1, the early models, pedal shifters, they're weird. Well, it was still cool. I mean, it was my first time sitting in any 911. And I even got to sit in the newest model, in the 992. They had one parked outside, and they opened it up for me to sit in. So that was nice. That's a little bit of an upside to buying a steering wheel rim for 350 euros. Freaking expensive, but yeah, still like it a lot. I feel like I'm not the only one locking up a tire in that turn. There's so many black marks on the road by now. Can't all have been me. Yeah, and the guys ahead are pulling away, and the guys behind me are, well, off the pace. It's a little weird. I mean, I did get some variance into the AI strength, but a field of 17, whoa, that's a lot of thunder. A field of 17 opponents, and everybody's either significantly faster or significantly slower than me. That's just weird. Well, Porsche should be hand shifted. Yeah, I don't have much of an opinion. I mean, sure, like H-pattern shifting a car is usually nice, but then again, for the racetrack, if you want to take it there, actually in sim racing, I usually prefer pedal shifted cars. So if you want to buy a 911 for the racetrack, then I think a pedal shift is fine too, if you want to go for lap times at least. Yeah, but I mean, Porsche, I think they're recognizing that it was a mistake to abandon H-pattern shifters for much, I think, of the 991 years. And now with the, I think the 992 is available again, also H-pattern shifted, isn't it? And I think in the, at least in the 991.1, you could only get the 911R, the special edition with a hand shifter. And maybe in later years the GT3 as well, I'm not sure. But one thing I noticed sitting in those cars was that actually I don't see the point of the 911 being so large. I mean, it's one of my favorite cars design-wise, and when it comes to cars and all about design. Some AI retiring there, that's interesting. Whoa. On lap 7. What was I gonna say? So I sat in both the 911 and the Caymans, and I don't get why the 911s need to be so large and getting even larger. I mean, I would love for Porsche to go back a little to their sportier roots and shrink the 911 down a little, because actually when you sit in a Cayman, you don't wish for any more space in any direction. Basically, you have enough space on the inside. It's not a small car, since it's just a 2-seater or 2+2. I'm not sure. You have enough space in that thing, and it doesn't need to be much wider on the outside either to be a fast car on the racetrack, as is evident by the Cayman GT4. Which actually was produced here in town in Osnabrück in Germany. So yeah, that's one thing that we have going for us outside of that thunderstorm. By the way, if you're thinking that I am driving like shit, look at the tires, they're worn down. That's the reason. It's not me. So yeah. And overall, I don't really get to grips with the 992 yet. I think the 991 is a pretty amazing car in looks, and also the size is, it's okay. It could be a little smaller, but it's still okay. But the 992 is just even bigger and heavier, and it looks bulky in the rear. It has this ring of fat going around its R's, and I don't like it a lot. And those freakishly stupid door handles that will only pop out when requested. And that's certainly like something that brings extra weight to the whole thing, and something that will break at some point. It's just unnecessary. Why don't you just have regular door handles? You can even make them flush with the body for aerodynamic reasons. Just putting an electric motor in that is necessary to operate them. I don't like the direction they're going with that. Alright, there's a question about Sveg. Which corner is my favorite? Yeah. Imagine you have 14 children and you're asked which is your favorite. 14 turns on this track. Or do you mean on racetracks in general? Like, do you want me to say like R130 or Rouge or something? On this track, maybe turn 12. But then it can be difficult, and nah, it's probably not my favorite. Turn 3 or turn 8? I don't know. I kind of like these 90-degree corners. Remind me of Melbourne, Albert Park, which has inspired this track to some degree. There's not any corner really that stands out to me on this track, and I never meant there to be anything spectacular in terms of corners, anything that is just pure bliss or anything. Because most racetracks don't have that one thing that stands out, and when you make something that stands out, you're taking a risk of having something that comes off as being extremely unrealistic. Case in point would be in Gran Turismo Sport, there's a fantasy track that at some point has like a huge drop where it goes downhill, and you're basically seeing the next turn, which is like 180 degrees right-hand corner. You're seeing it as a wall in front of you because you're going down really steep, and then before the turn it goes up again really steep, and then the corner has extreme banking. It's very impressive, but it just feels so fantasy track-ish. It's something that I really wanted to avoid when making this one. So yeah, I guess I just like the flow of corners, and I like the 90-degree turns. I like the one that's coming up here. I like when you can just make good use of the curbs. It's kind of satisfying, like using the track end to end. Okay, now let me answer that question more. Well, yeah, my tires are really gone. Okay, I have 3.4 seconds on the guy behind me. Let me try and bring this position home, because I'm really running out of grip here. Still seeing the other guys at the end of the straight here, but they're way out of reach. Favorite corner in any racetrack at all? Let's see. I like Road Atlanta a lot, so the S's in Road Atlanta, maybe they can be very rewarding if you get them right. For me, it's much about how rewarding a corner can be if you get it right. So yeah, Road Atlanta has some of the nicest corners I know. I like them a lot. I'm not gonna say like R130 or Rouge, because those are Rouge is boring in many cars, and it's just like lift off or maybe brake a little and then just get the car through somehow, but it's not that rewarding, and the same is true for R130. I guess those are more of an experience when you do them in real life and you have the G-forces acting on you, and then maybe, so if I drove them in real life, maybe my opinion would change, but in sim racing I don't think they're very exciting. Mosport has some interesting ones, turn 2, and where it goes down into this sort of hairpin, the double right-hander on Mosport. That double right-hander, it has a very nice flow to it as well once you get it right, so that would be one of my favorite ones. Oh, and then fantasy track, Deep Forest Raceway out of Gran Turismo 3, for example. Before the uphill straight, there's this double or triple apex left-hand turn that you can just power through in an amazing fashion that just can be amazingly rewarding. That would also be one of my favorite turns that I can think of right now. Alright, with that question cleared, we're on the final lap and we have someone right behind us, so I should maybe focus on not letting him get by if I can. My tires are gone, really gone, 45 on the rears, so let's see. Alright, MT, have a good evening. PD1 session coming ahead, have fun with that. Just gonna try and keep this guy behind me. No. Okay, 5th place. Well, that's okay. Good. Okay, let me see. Yeah, subtle dips and inclines. Yeah. I didn't want to go out of my way to like do crazy elevation changes or anything. I used the landscape that was there, so that's kind of restrictive with respect to how much of an how much elevation change you can put into it. But yeah, I mean, I could have done more probably if I absolutely wanted to, but I'm like many people are of the opinion that any great racetrack needs a lot of elevation change, and I don't agree with that. As I said earlier, I think Melbourne Albert Park is one of my favorite racetracks in the world. At least that's always my favorite in the Formula One calendar. And I've always loved it in early Formula One games, and it's just a really great track, and it's dead flat. There is no elevation change at all in the whole track, basically. So you can have a great racetrack without much elevation change. Now, Sveg has some, and there's great racetracks that have a lot of elevation change. I'm just saying it can be a nice feature, it doesn't have to be. So I didn't want to go overboard with it and just stuck to what the landscape provided me with in terms of elevation. Right, yeah, and that's that. I like the flow of some good ass combinations, MT said. Okay, yes. Yeah, I agree. Road Atlanta, Suzuka, there's some nice turns in there. For some reason, I've never really gotten... I'm not that fascinated with Suzuka. I like it. It's just not that mind-blowing thing to me that is, I think, to many. I don't know why. It's a very fun track to drive, sort of narrow. Maybe something that is a little off-putting to me is that in the S's, if you screw up the first turn, the first left hand in the S's, then you're gonna be screwed for the next 5 turns or something. It's yeah, it can be frustrating. I mean, it feels good if you get it right, but then again, it's not as satisfying as, for example, the S's at Road Atlanta. So yeah, that's that. Yeah, reverse camber on T1. I agree that was definitely on purpose. And I was looking at Mossport a little bit there, Mossport turn 2. I don't think that's that off camber. I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've driven. I've never driven Mossport a lot, mostly know it from Empty Box's videos, since until now there's only John's beta stage version of Mosport for AC so far, and it's not in a lot of games, unfortunately. So I don't have a lot of experience with it, but I still liked turn 2 and then the double right hand sort of hairpin corner in that. Yeah, right. So it shouldn't be just me talking. Also, I ran out of questions. So what I'll do now is pick a different car, because I mean, this one's nice and all, but maybe let's do something a little more interesting. Now, of course, you can't see what I'm seeing. You can only see my Assetto Corsa. Do you guys have any wishes for what car I should drive? Otherwise, I'm just gonna pick something that I find interesting. Yeah. If you have wishes, you're too late. I just chose the Arca. It's a mod car. The Arca FLM 09. I think, yeah, it's a 2009 LMP car. And it's made with a different philosophy than the Kunos cars. I know one of the guys involved with it, with the physics, and he's been, I think, a little bit of a critic of Aris' way of making physics, and I think he's approaching things a different way. So this car is a little more twitchy, but it feels very realistic with the DD wheelbase. So since it's got sort of a smaller wheel, it's got an open top wheel rim that looks to me like maybe 28 centimeter, probably not above 30. So I'm going to go ahead and drive that with a Formula rim here. I already have a setup for it. Yeah, Baker, it is. I agree. It's a bit twitchy. And I'm sitting too high in it. Hang on a second. It's a bit twitchy, but I do like it, I have to say. It's not that bad, actually. It was one of the cars where I found when I had the DD1 new. It was one of the cars where I felt like, okay, this direct drive stuff is making it easier to control the cars, actually. So let's see. Yeah, good position. Oh, sorry. Let me quickly get out of here and change the time of day and the weather a little, just to get a little bit of variety into the whole thing. Okay, just a little later again, and in terms of weather, how about some mist haze? But no, I'm gonna go with the mist setting. Let's see how that looks. I haven't tried that before on Sveg. So, coming back to the car and how it handles, on the one hand, I have the opinion that in a sim, more difficult to drive doesn't make the car better or more realistic. Because if race cars were very tricky to drive, then you couldn't use them for real life racing, because even professional race drivers also make mistakes, and if every small mistake is punished with no mercy, then people would just crash the car all the time, right? was a little far. I should do some braking here. And I'm just realizing now how different it feels to be on a small rim again. So the Porsche rim is 32 centimeters and this is 27, and it feels completely different. So in a sim, a car doesn't necessarily have to be very tricky to drive, very snappy and stuff, and I don't think it makes it more realistic. But I noticed that with the direct drive wheel that probably helps you to correct the smaller mistakes that you're making, and that just it makes you make fewer mistakes. And then maybe if the real car is more like that, then even a car that seems twitchy with most low power rear rims will suddenly be much more drivable with a direct drive wheel, and maybe also in reality, and then I guess it's fine again. So the question would be, do you have to dumb down the physics of the real car in order to make it more approachable with a low force wheel? And personally, I think that should not be the case. I think, if anything, there should be like, you could put two modes into the car, if you will, like have it like the realistic mode and the dumbed down mode, but nobody would want to admit that they have a dumbed down mode in the car. But I know that people do that in sims, even in some of the highly regarded sims. And this is a car that I know hasn't been dumbed down in any way. So it just makes for a very realistic driving experience, in my opinion, with a direct drive wheel. One thing that I know is that I'm using way too much steering gain on this one. So one of the creators told me that the steering forces that you're getting with this one should actually be somewhere probably in the 6 to 8 Newton meter range. I'm braking way too early here. And I'm probably getting something like 12 or so on the display. That's one of the nice things about the DD1. You don't, in other direct drive or any other wheelbase, essentially. So this was 11.3 Newton meters of torque, by the way, in this car. I can tell you this because I have it on the display. It shows me in real time what was the peak torque of the last 5 seconds. And that makes things comparable because, yeah, well, I turned my gain up to 80%. That doesn't tell you anything. It's like, okay, 80% what? So in the Assetto Corsa, you have like a, you have the car setting that I just reduced to 130%, down from 140. You have the in-game setting, which is a second multiplier that is added in on top of that, which I think I have at 60%, 50, I'm not sure. And then every wheel base or driver may also differ with respect to what exactly is a certain amount of percentage. So having someone tell you, well, I'm going 70% force feedback with 21 Newton meter base or something, that doesn't tell me anything. I don't know what kind of forces they experience in the car. And then of course it's very different. The force you have at in your hands is a force, not a torque. The torque is the rotational force that acts on the shaft, and the force that you have on your hands is calculated. It's dependent on the torque, of course, but the wheel diameter goes into that equation as well. So with a larger rim, you'll have less force on your hand with the same torque, which means if you're not telling me your used wheel diameter size, even the torque figure itself will not tell me anything. By the way, I think it looks quite interesting, start-finish straight in this weather at this time. I quite like it. I want to get a closer look at it next time around here. I'm still amazed by how many different atmospheres Soul creates on this track. It's quite amazing. Back to the topic, the Fanatic wheelbases, the DDE wheelbases, they show you exactly the amount of torque that you're using, and if you report that along with your wheel diameter, you know really how much force somebody is setting his wheel up to give him. And then you can make comparisons, and then you can say, well, this is more or less realistic because in the real car it's like this or that. And that is something that no other wheelbase offers. So, in my upcoming DD1 review, that will be one of the positive remarks that I have to make about it. It's not going to be all positive though. I mean, so maybe I should turn this down a little to make it more realistic, but to be honest, I mean, the reason they are, the reason that modern race cars have very light steering is because drivers don't want to get exhausted from it too much, so if it's allowed to use turbo steering, they are using it to just make it easier to drive, and that will of course help you over a long race with lap times that you can count in seconds, and might save you from a mistake or two if you're just less exhausted. So it makes sense. But I personally really like to have the steering force a little higher, because I feel at least in Assetto Corsa here, the higher force, I can feel a little bit more what the car is doing, and I'm feeling a little more in control of things. So I don't want to turn it down to realistic levels, to be honest. Okay, let's have a look here at this. This looks so cool. It's so like it looks fresh and minty to me. With the sky being all white and misty, it looks more open to the top somehow. I don't know. Just an artist creating or interpreting his own art in combination with a Soul mod. Is it that small? Okay, 250 millimeters even. Okay. Well, with a 250 millimeter wheel, then it makes sense that the torque would be reduced further, because then it'll be then you need less torque to get the same force in your hands. To be honest, like driving like 27 centimeter wheel here, I don't think I would want anything smaller anywhere in any car. I mean, I haven't tried anything, so maybe if I tried it something smaller, then I might like it. Alright, one thing that is up with the Soul mod though is if you look at my rearview mirror, below a certain brightness level, I think the mirror just goes to black. And I've had that happen in other races before with other cars, other weather settings. It was at some point of the night it would just go black. So switching it off since I'm alone on track anyway. Honestly, this car is so much fun to drive. I prefer driving this right now over the 911 GT3R, over the Yellowbird, and probably even over the 962C short tail. So probably like This might be my favorite car for this track, actually. At least right now. So maybe I should focus a little and drive a bit faster. Yeah, I can still push the braking point a little bit further here. Yeah, I don't know how many laps I've done now, but there wasn't... So far I didn't have any issues with the twitchiness, and I think that goes to make my case here, what I said about it being easier to control this car with a direct drive wheel. It'll just correct most of the small mistakes you're making by itself, so you don't have to worry about it. Yeah, maybe I should add that. I mean, the 962C short tail is off track. Too bad. It's also a great car on this track, and it's a lot of fun because it's got this old school vibe to it. When downshifting into second, it will just lock up your rear wheels a little, at least when you're with the settings that I drove it with lately. And, maybe you can avoid that by using manual clutch and H-pattern shifters, but it has this vibe about it, and it's very drivable as well. It's not a very difficult car, but still interesting to drive because it moves around a lot. So the 962C Shorttail is definitely a cool car for this track. It's fast enough, and it doesn't have excessive amounts of grip. This one is, man, it has such just, move the grass a little here. It just feels so real, I guess, so authentic on the wheel. Just, yeah. Curbs biting me in the ass again. Time for some setup changes then, because my front tires weren't getting to temperature. Let's see what we can do. So this doesn't give me a lot of options. Well, we can take out some fuel because I have fuel consumption off because I'm sort of in hot lap mode here. I feel like 4 degrees of camber is already a lot. I could try to go more negative on the front toe in. So let's go -20 and see if that helps with the tire temps. Okay. Yeah, see, I mean the rear tires are fine. I can still try to get some temperature in the front tires with some setup changes. But they might as well just screw up the other things about the car. So, by the way, why are my tires... Why is the grip so low right now on these? A little weird. Do they need so long to get like broken in? Seems like grip levels are going up. It's still really bad on the front wheels. So looks like they need at least one warm-up lap. And the rear wheels are getting there much quicker than the front wheels, so trying to be very careful here. So far it doesn't seem to do much for me in terms of temperature in the front wheels. I mean, I could go the extreme and just put in all the camber and all the tow it can take and see if that makes a difference even for the front tires, and if it doesn't, then I might just give up on trying to get them to get in the green range of temperatures. Yeah, locking them up nicely. That'll give them some temperature. So there are a few grip levels now. Inside curve. The car is very responsive, so I'm used to having to turn into the corner a little more than I have to with all other cars, because every other car is understeering in turn 1, also because it's off camber. This one isn't, so I'm hitting the curb on the inside a lot. A little bit of a mid-corner oversteer here, but caught it with ease. Okay, so I'm not getting temperatures like this, so let's go all the way. 5 degrees and minus 30. Wait, this extreme values like that, that can't be right? So this is probably gonna drive like shit now. Will it give me some temperature? Doesn't look like I'm getting much temperature into the fronts even with these settings. turn. Thank you. No, I haven't shown night on the track. I was actually, I was hoping this would be a little more dark, but because I set it to like 10:40 p.m. or something, but it may have forgotten my setting to April, so it's 2 days to midsummer. So if the date in game is the current date, 19th of June, then it makes sense that it's not really dark because it's far up north, and I don't think Sveg has midnight sun really, but it also doesn't really get all that dark at midsummer in the night. So yeah, this is like, it probably won't get much darker here if I don't change the date. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think this is like these looks, this mist weather, in this kind of at this time and this like, to me this looks really beautiful. Maybe just because it's something completely different from what I'm used to the track looking, and it doesn't suck. But it has sort of a realistic feel, and I think it's beautiful. So I like driving in this. But let's actually do two things now. I'm gonna get out of the game, and I'm gonna go into the settings and see if I can find where I put on the in-game wheel. Got it. And now I'm going to check out the yeah, it was basically midsummer, so that's why it was that that bright even around 11 in the evening. And that's one other thing that I love about Seoul. Just, you know, since Sveg is so far up north, it really makes a big difference what month of the year you're choosing in the setting. And it's kind of nice. It's something that I don't think a lot of tracks have, that it makes that much of a difference, where you're putting it to 12 o'clock at night and you're wondering why it isn't dark. So yeah. So now I chose mid-April, and I'm going with 10:30 p.m. and I think that should be dark. Right, yeah, you're right. I can't change the stuff in game with a weather app, and I have that installed, and I've used it before. But I wanted to put the steering wheel and arms on the screen anyway. I forgot that before the stream, and then I think it's more enjoyable for you guys to see. So, to see actually what I'm doing while you're looking on the driving portion of it. So, here we go. This is Sveg at night. I feel like I'm running in the limiter a lot because I have 3 different shift light indicators here. So I've got the one in the app on the right. I've got the one on the virtual car, and I have the one on my Fanatic rim here. They all show me something slightly different. So I think I'm gonna go and shift whenever the app goes red, even though that's like way up the maximum for the in-car display, but I don't want to run in the limiter all the time. track here. See, the car is twitchy, but it's not really giving me that many problems. I mean, I'm still sort of slow, I guess you can see in the time delta. That's probably compared to my quickest lap so far. This car on this track, so. Still getting reaccustomed to it. So this lap I'm at least getting a little closer to my previous best lap here. Quarter of a second off after half the lap. Still not sure, I could have braked later here. Still not sure where the ideal brake point is in that turn. Yeah, I'm losing a lot in turns 7 and 8. Just on this lap. Basically losing a lot of time in the second half of the track. Oh, okay. Now this was genuinely the twitchiness of the car throwing me around. This time it wasn't the curb or anything else. I was just late on the brakes while turning in and then couldn't catch the slide anymore. it's interesting that this car needs so much warm-up. I basically have to do a full lap for the tires to go anywhere near proper grip values, whereas in most Kunos cars you can just go start from the hot lap starting position and take your first lap like that. Yeah, I'm glad you liked the interview. Ty, Charles. You'll certainly see more from me in terms of videos on this channel. Don't see myself making another track in the future though. At least not in the foreseeable future. I wasn't sure I was going to get that turn. Okay, so the first half of the track works again, so I'm currently ahead of my fastest time here, but the second half, let's see. Let's try second gear for turn 7 here. Third gear for turn 8. That works. I got off the brakes too quick here in this turn, so that cost me a lot. Still costing me now, because I was late on the throttle and the exit. I don't know why I do this. I should remember that I can't be that liberal with my braking points here. Let's try again. First turn might be full throttle. Yep. It's just too quick on the brakes or too soon on the brakes here. Oh, come on. And botched the lap. Since this lap is no good anyway, how about some new tires? I think the setup is... I don't have much to complain about with the setup. Feeling control of the car, yeah, could understeer a little less in some places, but I don't think there's much I can do to get the front tires to grip a little more. So let's focus on the driving instead. Alright, tires still have no grip. Yeah, the slow exit out of that turn 6 is not going to cost me all along this whole straight. We're still ahead of the fastest time so far. So. Damn it! It was quick, but just ever so slightly out of bounds. That was slow. Still am not really sure how to do turn 12 in this car. I'm losing a lot of time compared to my personal best. Okay, one more lap on these tires. Turn. We're still good, and ahead of the fast lap so far. Too early. Well, shit. And there goes the lap time. This car is just amazing. Just, yeah, you get sideways a little bit because it's twitchy, but then I always feel in control. I hardly ever lose the car. I think I lost it like once or twice, except for the curb of death issues. Should use a little less curve on that turn because the car is jumping, and then I gotta wait too long until I get back on the throttle. Yeah, this car is so enjoyable to drive on the limit. It's amazing. Anyway, I think this is going to be my last lap. I'm not seeing myself beat my own best tonight. I'm going to have to make another session out of it for the Beat the Death challenge. Any last questions from you guys? Otherwise, let's just try one last thing that I have in mind, and that is checking out the midnight sun, or lack of midnight sun, in Sveg with the weather app. Okay, June 21st. What do we have there? I'm seeing the sun set in the background at 10:37 on June 21st. So let's go. Yeah, okay, it's gone now by 23:20. Okay, this is midnight, 7 past midnight. Now we're at 2 past midnight. Let's have a look around. So, midsummer in Sveg looks like this. It's not all that dark at 12 o'clock. Well, you could still easily go drive the car without the lights on, so that's nice. Oop. See if it gets any darker. Yeah, a little bit here. We're now at 1:45 in the morning. It's now at 1:30. It's almost brighter again than before, so another 45 minutes should brighten it up. Yeah. This is now 2:20 in the morning. 3 o'clock. And do we have a sunrise somewhere? The mountains in the background just look majestic in this with this weather setting, with a mist setting. I like it a lot. I'm really fascinated here. Okay, so let's see. When does the sun go up at midsummer? Oops. There we go. So, sunrise midsummer at Sveg is around 3:25. That's when the first sunbeams here come up. Yeah, there we go. It's pretty bright by 4:24 with the sun all the way up in the sky. Now let's do the opposite. Let's check out December 21st. So, here we go. When does the sun go up here? Let's go 6 hours. There it's up. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to come up in the exact same spot, right? So I feel like it should be up now. No, not seeing it. Oh, there we go. Yeah, comes up in a different spot here. So, sunrise on December 21st is around 10:50 in the morning, and it'll just, didn't want to go a month ahead, so we're still in December. Oh wait, we're December 19th, this is 21st. Okay, let's go back. Yeah, 10:51 in the morning on December 21st, so it'll skim over the horizon just a little and then be gone again by about 3:20 in the afternoon. So yeah, that seems about right. That's pretty much how it is, I guess, in real life. So yeah, good job, Sol, and whatever else is involved here. Maybe I'm not sure. No, I think it's probably just Sol that is responsible for this weather stuff, right? Anyway, so that's interesting. We can quickly go into the late afternoon and see how this area of the track develops over the night. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. To those of you that are still watching, I don't know if there are actually any, because the chat has been silent for a while. But yeah, that will be it for the release stream of Sveg 1.2 for Assetto Corsa. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, and if you watch this as a replay, thank you very much for watching the replay. And with that, I'm just gonna say have a good night, and goodbye.